PlayStation's newest exclusive at the time of recording this, Stellar Blade, is out. It's out, finally. From developer Shift Up, and I'm gonna do my best here on names, director Hyung-tae Kim. This is actually a Korean game that is very much in the same sphere or genre or world, I would say, as a game like Nier, having a lot of RPG elements, but also focusing on a hack and slash type combat that I think to some people will come off different than it actually is. I found that the combat of this game, it does have some things in common with Soulsborne games, where blocking, dodging, parrying, things like these are very important, but I would argue that the timing of those things is more akin to something like Bloodborne, also with elements of games like Kingdom Hearts, Devil May Cry, Nier. There is a lot here that I think is interesting, but Stellar Blade is not just parroting other works. I think it's very much a unique game in and of its own right that unfortunately there's a lot of baggage around. A lot of people have put certain ideas and concepts off onto the game, and there are a few things to cover with that as well today. So if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more content, and question of the day: do you have a favorite game that was also made primarily in Korea? Because I think that a lot of video games now, when they come from Asia, people think, oh, that's either Japanese or it is Chinese. I think seeing a big AAA high budget Korean game as a PlayStation frontrunner of exclusivity, it's kind of cool. On the other hand, if you have nothing for that, I'm just wondering what you think about the game so far. That's my secondary question of the day. But hopping back into it, I do think that this game has had a lot put off onto it when it comes to the ideas of censorship, of making the art that you want to make. And I do want to say that off the bat, this game is very beautiful. I think it plays very well, and I do think it does a good job of showcasing feminine and female beauty and the beauty of a woman's body. That said, people who are getting into it for just that reason, I do think are also missing out on a great game. Also, people who are boycotting it or pushing it aside, calling it things like Gooner Bait or Gooner Souls or these things, I think they're missing out on a very good game by just seeing the skin or the outer surface of the game and not what lies beneath. It really does remind me of the adage, don't judge a book by its cover. Yes, there's going to be some things you can discern from that, and there are some things in the game that are absolutely true. Like, the game does not miss opportunities to showcase the beauty of the body of Eve, the protagonist. But it's also a very responsive and fun, exciting world set in a post-apocalyptic Earth that does its own thing as well. When it comes to Sony, it's unfortunate that Sony has taken more of a position in the last decade, I would say, of instead of being for free art and free expression, trying not to step on any toes, trying to be a little more politically correct, trying to make sure that they don't upset people too much, and I do think that that does in some ways impact a game like Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade in the demo, and I can show you some pictures, it was shown to have certain costumes, certain things that didn't make it into the final game. And while the game's director from Shift Up did say that the game that we got is the game they wanted you to get, it is a little telling to me that the very first patch on day one did change a couple of the outfits. Now, it's not like they threw Eve in a nun suit and there's no body on display, but I just want to point that out, that unfortunately I do think Sony's censorship practices did graze this game a little bit. It didn't hit it full on dead center, but I do think it was kind of like getting nicked by a bullet, where there was a little bit of grazing going on here, because on Twitter they actually made a big deal about how the version of the game going to all countries pretty much was going to be uncensored, and then with the first patch changing some outfits, I do think that that's a discussion that we can get in more depth in another day, that my wife Jill actually wants to talk about with me. But it is something unfortunate that I do hope they go back on, because I want to see the more uncensored, unfiltered version of what this art is. Because what this art is actually very beautiful. The world, I would say, is deep and complex. There is a lot of traversal elements to the game, like there's climbing in certain places, there's a lot of exploring, and there's also a lot of missable details in this game that add to the world building and actually make you understand what was going on Earth when the protagonist was not around, when the protagonist wasn't here. You're essentially going around picking up the pieces of a destroyed civilization and trying to save what is left of it. And I find that fascinating, and there are a lot of games that do the same thing. Series like Fallout, series like Nier, there is such a thing as post-apocalyptic or futuristic games in a setting that is certainly not ideal, but I do think that Stellar Blade has its own spin on it that makes it not just derivative of other works that come before it. This is one of the few games where I actually find it very fun to go around and pick up lore, to actually find out what's going on in the world. You can find dead soldiers from before the events of the game and pick up their logs and sort of piece together some of the ideas that are happening. And it's almost a fragmented history of the world that's more complex than I think people are giving the game credit for. People are looking at the game and they're seeing the beautiful woman, and when you have these allegations like Gooner Souls or Gooner Bait or whatever, that's kind of, unfortunately, I think a reputation that is going to come with a game like this, but it doesn't come with a lot of other games that I've noticed are also sort of a physique on display, but a interesting world with interesting combat. Things like God of War, where Kratos isn't exactly wearing much, but he's going through a very interesting world with hack and slash combat, learning what happened to this world, affecting the world in certain ways. I kind of see Stellar Blade the same way, where there's this very deep and interesting world with this fun, fast, responsive combat that I do think some people are going to miss out on by just judging the book completely by its cover. I've found that this game rewards multiple styles of play. It rewards the idea of sitting around and trying to grind some enemies to get some XP, to get some more skill points, and then level up your character to get new abilities. It rewards you for that. It rewards you for looking around. It rewards you for finding more materials off the beaten path, in somewhere that you might not necessarily go. It rewards you with story by doing the same thing with these lore bits. It rewards you with story by just going for the main objective. And I've also found that the combat is very responsive and just fun in general. I'm not the best at games like this. Games like Devil May Cry and Kingdom Hearts especially are very hard on me because I have chronic pain conditions with my hands. So when it came to this game, I was very worried, am I not going to be able to play this game very well? But I actually think that it has a mid-level hack and slash type combat where it's not too fast that it's ridiculous, where you're mashing the buttons all the time, like please, please, please hit something. Oh no, I missed a 0.1 second interval input. I guess I lose. The game rewards your skill because it does teach you these different moves and these different combos, but it's also not completely unforgiving. If you miss a dodge or miss a combo, there's always a way back from it. And I think that that's really cool with this game because I think that it's something that takes the Souls ideas, the Soulsborne ideas of practicing the combat and getting better, and it gives you a lot of avenues to do that, even including a training mode where you can go in and fight enemies and set their moves certain ways so that you can practice different moves and different combos and dodges and parries. And I think that kind of thing is really helpful to a learning curve for people getting used to the game. I could actually see this being an introduction to this type of game for someone. Now that said, not every single thing is perfect, obviously, with the game. I did want to mention that I personally bought the disc of this game, which I think is usually my way to go. I like discs, but the first update for the game did improve the timing a little bit on certain things, unfortunately also dropping that censorship. So it's one of those things where it's kind of a frustrating mixed bag of, okay, well, I have the game on disc. Do I want the more responsive timing? Because the game's complete, works very well just on disc, but they improved the timing of parrying and basic attacks even more with the first update. So you have to ask yourself, well, do I want that? Or do I want the uncensored outfits? I don't think that's a question you should have to ask when it comes to updates. I also did buy the digital deluxe upgrade to get some stuff because I wanted to support this game, and it takes a long time to actually be able to customize Eve and actually be able to get these outfits that you paid for, or even get more outfits. This game certainly deserves credit for its fashion sense, the ability to change the main character's cosmetic looks, and even change some of the characters, the tertiary, secondary, supporting characters around Eve in different ways and make them look different. I like that kind of stuff. but it does take a few hours to actually get to the point where you can do that. Now, I'm sure if you're just bum rushing it right through, you know, you could maybe get there in about 2 hours, get to the city called Zion, which I will say is probably a knockoff of the Matrix city, considering it's the last human civilization known city right now, and it's where humans have all held out and they have to get there in airships. I would say the inspirations of things like Nier and Matrix on this game are not subtle at times. I don't think it's a ripoff in any ways, but I do think certain things like the city of Zion are kind of funny. Regardless, it took a few hours to actually get there, especially because I was looking around, exploring, fighting enemies, trying to level up a little bit, trying to find this lore. And because of that, I do feel like there's a lot of people who are going to spend several hours kind of wondering where that customization is, because it does take a little too long to get to it, in my opinion. That doesn't really mean the game's bad or anything. I just personally, if I was designing this game, I would have prioritized that customization earlier on in the game, at least cosmetically. The enemies are really interesting. A lot of them are based off of crustaceans, undersea creatures. Sometimes they're based off insects. Sometimes they almost look like demons, and they all have very interesting lore and story around them. And the game also has a very, very beautiful world. I mean, the graphics I think are incredible. I play this game on balanced mode, where it has a very good frame rate and also very, very good graphics, but you can choose to prioritize graphics to go more native 4K. My balanced mode that I'm playing on is, I believe, 2K, and then it upscales to 4K, but I upload most of my videos in 1080p or 2K anyway, so that's not really a huge effect on me. And then, of course, as well, there is more of just a performance mode, which is just going all in on FPS. I think that all three of these modes are done well. I personally would recommend balance, though, for players if you're looking for a gorgeous world that's unique, but also a game that is very fast and responsive, which I think is very important for a game like this. And I think this game actually does this better than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth did at launch, where you basically had to choose at launch between, do I want the game to be blurry and really responsive, or do I want the game to be a little bit chuggy during combat that does matter for timing, but I want the game to be very beautiful. I don't think you should have to choose between that, and the balanced graphics mode that Shift Up put in this game does a good job of not forcing the player to choose between responsive game and good looking game. I don't think those should be the only two options. So they have a lot of options here that I think are very, very great when it comes to the game, with things reminding me of Dark Souls, Elden Ring, and also other games in terms of inspirations, but also going its own direction. And this is something that I hope to see more games out of. I do hope that Sony, with its push for censoring games, does not heavily impact this game. I do hope certain things are reversed, because I do think that despite the fact that I think the game is really good, I also do think there's nothing wrong with showcasing the beauty of Eve, showcasing the beauty of a woman's body in the modern day, especially in a modern day where we all, are told constantly that that's a fine thing to do in real life. But then when it comes to games and art, it seems like there's a lot of people who are very insecure with themselves, who constantly want to get rid of that thing because it makes them insecure, instead of just choosing to not engage with it. I mean, not engaging with it, they'd still miss out on a good game, but at least they wouldn't be affecting it for everyone else. So that's something I'm going to talk about in a future video on the censorship of Stellar Blade and the censorship of games in general. I know my wife Jill wanted to be in that, but overall, I think Stellar Blade is worth buying. I think it's a very fun game. I really, really enjoy it so far. The music is beautiful, the world is beautiful, the combat is responsive and quick, but not so quick that it's hard to play. There are different modes that make the game accessible or cater to your playstyle or cater to what you like in a video game, what you enjoy, and I think that there's a lot here that, kind of exists beneath the surface, beneath the outer layer, I guess I'd say beneath the skin suit of Eve, that is very interesting, and I can't wait to see more revealed. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more content. I appreciate you very much. We had our question of the day. We do try and do a lot of high quality content on all of our channels. Those are all in the description down below. If you want to see us play through this game, we're actually playing through it over on Degenerate Plays, my Let's Play channel. That's in the description down below as well. Other than just letting us know your thoughts, we do have a Fortnite code that goes to help support this channel, and we do also have our own store, CosmoBunny.shop, where we sell transformative resin pieces from basically damaged comic books or manga that we get from stores that are unable to be sold, and we turn them into a transformative artistic piece for your home, like coasters, keychains, trays, and more things that you can use and enjoy in your everyday life. And my wife Jill, also, if you're into fashion, which this game Stellar Blade is very much into, my wife Jill makes handmade beaded jewelry and all kinds of wonderful art over there that does go to help support the channel and help support what we're doing here. You can use code DJAY123 on that as well for 10% off your first purchase. We appreciate you very much. Hope you have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shui.